Our story kicks off in the middle of absolute chaos. A young teenage girl named Red returns to her home, only to be greeted by the deafening, piercing shriek of a blaring smoke alarm. The entire house is a total mess, filled with hazy smoke and the suffocating evidence of neglect. Panic setting in, she desperately calls out for her mother, Scarlett. Red finds her sprawled out, shaking her violently to wake her up. But her mother isn't just passed out from exhaustion. She is completely oblivious to the world around her. Heavily high on whatever potent substances she's been taking to numb her reality. Struggling under the dead weight, Red manages to drag her mother outside into the crisp, fresh air. As Scarlett slowly regains a fraction of her senses, she begins to ramble incoherently. She mutters that she was trapped in a vivid dream, a nightmare where she was endlessly chasing a terrifying wolf. Red looks at her mother in sheer confusion. A wolf. Seriously? Red challenges her mother's delusional story, sharply reminding her of the accepted truth. Didn't you say you lost your arm in an accident? Scarlett simply goes quiet, the fight draining from her as she slumps heavily onto Red's shoulder. It is painfully clear that their relationship is strained to the breaking point. Red is entirely fed up with her mother's erratic, destructive behavior. The constant stress takes a massive toll on the young girl, so much so that she can't even find peace to sleep at home anymore, frequently ending up dozing off at her desk during classes at school. However, the bleak routine of her life is about to shatter permanently. One fateful day, Red comes home and gets the absolute shock of her life. She walks in to find her mother lying cold and unresponsive on the floor. Scarlett is dead from a massive drug overdose. Stunned, heartbroken, and completely unsure of what to do next, Red finally gathers the courage to call the police. When the authorities arrive and secure the scene, they gently ask if Red has any other relatives to take her in. Red's initial instinct is to say no. But when the crushing realization hits her that the only alternative is being thrown into the cold, unpredictable foster care system, she speaks up. She mentions that her grandmother is still alive. The truth is, Red knows absolutely nothing about this woman. She has never met her, never spoken to her, and has never even seen a photograph of her. A sympathetic policewoman advises Red to make the call, suggesting that going to live with her own flesh and blood, no matter how estranged, is far better than living with complete strangers. With deep reluctance, Red dials her grandmother's number and delivers the devastating news that Scarlett has passed away. The grandmother is audibly shocked by the sudden tragedy, but her tone quickly shifts to warm comfort. She practically begs Red to pack her things and come live with her immediately. She paints a picture of a brilliant future, promising the grieving girl a wonderful life filled with privilege and a guaranteed spot in the very best school. She wistfully mentions that Red's mother, Scarlett, had an incredibly great life before she inexplicably packed up and left one day, abandoning a life where she wanted for absolutely nothing. With no other options, Red packs her bags and travels toward her new life. Upon arriving at the designated station, a stoic man is waiting to receive her. He introduces himself as Malcolm, stating that he works directly for her grandmother. As they drive through the winding, isolated roads, Malcolm explains his role, describing himself as her grandmother's dedicated right and left-hand man. When the car finally passes through the towering iron gates of the estate, Red is completely blown away. The sheer size of the opulent mansion and the vast, sprawling land surrounding it is staggering. It is immediately apparent that her mysterious grandmother is unfathomably wealthy. Malcolm glances back at the awestruck girl and tells her that all of this immense property rightfully belongs to her family. Stepping inside, Red is in absolute awe by the massive, meticulously decorated house. For a brief moment, she allows herself to think that her life is finally about to get a major upgrade, perhaps filled with luxuries like sushi in the sky. She is warmly welcomed by the estate's maid, a quiet woman named Mari. As Red explores the grand hallways, examining the antique photos lining the walls, one specific picture catches her eye. It shows her grandmother standing next to a young boy. Red innocently asks who the boy is. Mari's demeanor instantly cools. She explains that it is the grandmother's brother who tragically died when he was very young. Mari firmly adds that his death is a strictly forbidden topic in this house. No one is allowed to talk about him. Changing the subject, Mari escorts Red to her new bedroom. revealing that this lavish space used to belong to her mother. Mari points out a vintage jacket draped over a chair, noting it was Scarlett's absolute favorite. Suddenly, the heavy bedroom door creaks open, and the grandmother enters. She stands frozen, staring intently at Red. Her eyes well up with emotion as she declares that Red is the spitting image of her mother, perfect carbon copy. She pulls the rigid teenager into a tight, emotional hug, clearly overjoyed to finally have her granddaughter home. Later that evening, the family sits down for a lavish dinner. The conversation inevitably turns to Scarlett, confirming that Red's relationship with her mother was difficult, driven entirely by Scarlett's crippling addiction. The grandmother softly explains that Scarlett was a deeply good, vibrant, and happy person until she suffered a terrible accident. After that tragic event, she completely changed. Seizing the opportunity, Red asks about the wild stories of the wolf that supposedly tore off her mother's arm. Her grandmother immediately dismisses the tale as pure, drug-induced nonsense. There was no wolf, she says firmly. She insists Scarlett was in a horrific car accident because she was driving drunk, and she paid the ultimate agonizing price with her arm. After the heavy meal, Red steps outside into the cool night air, desperately looking for a cell phone signal. She wanders the perimeter of the estate, but can't find a single bar of service anywhere. Just before she turns to head back inside the safety of the mansion, she spots a dark, eerie figure standing silently at the edge of the dense woods. Cautiously, her heart pounding, she approaches the tree line. She is absolutely shocked to see the pale, ghostly figure of her mother standing there. Scarlett raises a trembling hand, urgently warning Red to stay away. But Red, desperate for connection, insists on getting closer. The moment Red's fingers brush against her, the figure of her mother violently twists, unleashing a deafening, blood-curdling scream directly into Red's face. Red jolts awake in her bed, gasping for air. Thankfully, it was just a terrifying nightmare. Still shaken, she walks to the window and peers out into the early morning light. Her eyes widen as she spots Malcolm at the edge of the property. He is heavily dragging a large, suspiciously shaped sack toward the dark woods. Red quickly ducks below the windowsill before he can spot her. When she gathers the courage to look again, Malcolm has vanished into the trees, and only the mysterious sack remains lying ominously on the ground. The next morning, Reed approaches Mari, asking for directions on how to get into the local town. Mari insists on having Malcolm drive her, but Red firmly refuses. She needs space and wants to go alone. Mari, trying to be helpful, mentions that there is an old, rusty bicycle hidden up in the attic that used to belong to Scarlett. Red ventures into the dusty attic, retrieves her mother's old bike, and sets off to explore her new surroundings. As she pedals down the lonely, winding dirt roads enveloped by towering trees, a chilling sound echoes through the air, the distinct, mournful howling of wolves. The sound instantly brings back her mother's frantic, drug-fueled stories. Freaked out by the eerie atmosphere, Red pedals faster, desperate to reach civilization. When she finally arrives in the small, quiet town, she is deeply disturbed by the environment. Every bulletin board and storefront window is plastered with missing person posters. It seems like an impossible number of vanished people for such a tiny, isolated community. After looking around the grim streets, she heads toward the local bar Mari had mentioned, hoping to find Janet, an old friend of her mother's. Red takes a seat at the empty counter and orders a drink. The stern woman behind the bar immediately demands to see her ID. Ignoring the request, Red looks at her and asks, "Are you Janet?" The bartender's eyes narrow suspiciously as she asks who wants to know. When Red reveals that she is Scarlett's daughter, Janet is absolutely stunned. She leans in,